right, we are back with our BBB podcast on WUFO. It's been a couple of months, but happy to be back at it. I think, as always, we've got a lot to talk about. Joining me today is my usual guest, Lori Asher, our investigator at the BBB. How are you, Lori?
Oh, wow. Well, after a nice long weekend,
I know.
A lot going on, right?
Beautiful weather.
Yes, gorgeous.
Yeah, so very happy that we're in the summer months here. Before we get started with what we want to talk about, we actually had our first Torch Award event in 20 years since we last had our podcast, and I just wanted to give a little recap on that.
That was a fantastic event.
It went really well. We had several winners that were in attendance. Some traveled all the way from Albany, and just want to give a quick shout out to our local winner, West Her Automotive Group. They had a great showing there, and very happy that we could recognize them and other businesses. But it went really well. We're already looking at doing it again next year. But the one thing I want to push is that I would love to see more applications come in next year. We had a high number this year, but I'd like to set a goal of getting even more applications, especially right here in the Buffalo area. I know there are a lot of awesome businesses out there.
There is, and what was neat about it, looking from the outside, being obviously a part of the BBB, but a lot of the companies were mingling,
right.
making connections and talking, and it was great to see that. And so I know a lot of people were thankful to see other businesses that you could obviously, work with and stuff like that. So I think it is a benefit to everyone.
Yeah. So
business that could.
Really glad the event went well. Thank you for all your help and looking forward to planning.
Fantastic. It was
great. Thank you. Looking forward to planning for next year, but we are going to open the Torch Award applications usually in the fall. So I will put out a save the date and remind everyone, but you can always follow us on social media and bbb.org to see when the application's officially open. So just your friendly reminder to apply and come to the luncheon next year. Yeah. But anyhow, I know we have a lot to talk about today, and I think it makes sense that it's summer. We're all excited that we've got some nice weather for the few short months that we get to enjoy it. Yes. But there are a lot of scams that we see pop up during this summer season. So I think, for this episode, we can dive into some of those, starting with travel scams. Unfortunately, this is something we do hear about. What do you see in Scam Tracker in regards to travel scams?
Well, absolutely. So what I'm seeing right now are these fake travel deals. You're going to see a lot of those, and they come in all forms. So you might see an email, or might be a text, social media ads. And of course, what's happening is they're coming after you. So think about that.
I didn't start it until 3 minutes. Can you want to start all over again or what?
No, that's okay. We'll keep going.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So they're coming at you. So that's one thing to think about. Do you know what I mean? If they're seeking you, but you should be the one seeking the deals. And what are you, obviously, as a consumer, wanting, right? What are they going to provide for you? But, free cruises,
right?
Free airfare, like those things you need to look out for. But
yeah, I always see those emails or pop-ups that come up and say, you've won a cruise.
Right. And that's, and they're pressuring, the limited time. It's always limited time and upfront, fees that, of course, they want. They're trying to lure you in. And of course, sometimes they even request with gift cards.
Yeah.
Right there is a big red flag, requesting for, pay with gift cards. And of course, wire transfer. Let's not use those. Use that credit card for protection. And I know you've discussed it with the public, and we're always discussing as we head out, to many events. To let the public know and get educated, use your credit card.
And I see, I get lots of promotions or promotional emails and, ads that come up on social media, advertising, low fares for flights from different airlines. And, some of them are legitimate, but you really want to make sure that ad you're clicking on is real and takes you to a real website. And you have to, be cautious. Anytime you see a deal that sounds too good to be true. It probably is. But just some little tips. When you see these ads on social media, make sure it's the official company logo, that it hasn't been generated with AI, which is getting even harder to spot these days. And what website is it directing you to? Is it a legitimate website? Do you see HTTPS in the browser and the little lock symbol?
Yes.
Is everything spelled correctly? Those are just some little things to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what, we want everyone to know, like, especially with rental scams or any travel scam, you want to see that there's attractive prices that are out there. And, what I would do, and I'm always one to look for Airbnbs. I mean, we travel a lot and we love to go here and there. And now we're fixed on these Airbnbs. But what I want everyone to know, with me doing my research, when you see the pictures of the place, they look fantastic. And they're like, look at the price with these pictures. It's beautiful. It's modern. It's wonderful.
Right.
It's near the water. But you need to maybe take a look at those pictures and check it out.
Yeah.
Make sure there's an address. Is it the right address?
Well, people can just, steal these beautiful photos from other other renters and try to pass them off as their own. So, always do a reverse image search
exactly it,
too.
yes.
You can right click and do that to see where the image actually came from. But like you said, look up the address, because there have been some rental cons that we've encountered where, you look up the address and it takes you to an empty field.
Right.
There's nothing there.
There's no lakefront property.
No,
You're
I know.
Cornfield.
Right. And how I mean, I'm going out of town tomorrow. We're doing our annual trip. We just go to the Thousand Islands, but my family and I, we go every year. And we stay at the same place. We do the same things, but I can't imagine if I had planned a trip and you're so excited for this vacation, you've been looking forward to it, you're ready for that time off, and you realize you've been scammed.
Right. Yeah, I mean, read the reviews, and I always read the reviews. Like, I want to see a lot of reviews, and sometimes, it's a brand new place. Okay. Then there isn't reviews and you're like, oh, do I go with that or not?
It always makes me nervous if I don't see any reviews,
right.
Or if you see reviews that seem a little suspicious, that seem like they were copy pasted, or just 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars, but they don't have any details. I try to look for the reviews.
They're very vague.
Right. I try to look for the reviews that provide the most details, pictures.
Right. And if they're talking about something that doesn't relate to what you're looking at, I mean, holy cow. And you can find some of those. Those are fake reviews, and they're stealing them from something else. So they're talking about, the great fire pit in the back of the yard, in the backyard. Well, there's no fire pit that says anything. You know what I mean? So you really do have to read those reviews and see what people are saying.
And I think, I feel like we come back to sharing a lot of the same tips and the same advice. But it's so important. Do your research. Take a few extra minutes to determine if something is legitimate, because it could save you so many headaches in the long run. And you brought up a good point. Pay with a credit card if you can, because if you do encounter a scam, you're much more likely to get your money back.
Stay away from those payment apps.
Right. And that's what a lot of scammers use to pressure you. They'll say, transfer me $200 for a deposit right now, and you're using Venmo or Cash App or one of those peer-to-peer payment apps. Once you send that money, it is gone.
Right.
And that's why they like to use it. You should really only use those apps with people you know and trust.
And then what tends to happen is you make that payment through that app, and then they disappear.
Yes. And then all communication is gone. They got what they wanted and they're on to the next person.
Yeah.
And, you're out the money that you thought you were putting toward a beautiful vacation.
Yeah.
So
compare prices too. You want to compare prices, and you can do that through all different, reasonable websites, valid websites, and check things out with hotels, and I like to do that. So I'll look maybe on an Expedia, but then I want to go to the real Hyatt. Make sure you go to the real site. Is this, compare and see what's going on. So
yeah. You always want to be careful with like the third party booking sites. I always think that personally, I always go right to the source.
Right.
right directly to the hotel website, making sure it's a legitimate website. Just little things like that can help you make sure that you're actually purchasing what you intend to purchase. But on the topic of travel scams, I guess the risk doesn't necessarily stop once you book the trip. When you're out of town, you could encounter scams as well. I know a BBB study several years ago now that was released detailed a scam in which the scammers were calling a hotel room, pretending to be the front desk and telling you there's an issue with your credit card. You need to update your credit card information. And people think, okay, well, it's the front desk calling me. They don't question it. And, people were losing a lot of money. So, those are just things to think about when you're on the road. And you always want to make sure that you are protecting your, your credit cards, your debit card, your driver's license, because I know we've talked about this before, but scammers have skimming devices where they can just pull the information from your cards. So I apologize. I don't have any with me today, but we have those little RFID sleeves that we're happy to send anybody. And they're, a great resource to protect your cards, and we have them for passports too.
Yes, and that's what we used the BBB passport. We were just recently over in Europe, and we had our passport. I felt so much better because you have to carry them everywhere, but we had that BBB, covering even the passport, and so it made me feel a little bit safer.
Sure.
You're always using credit cards overseas, and so you want, and I would suggest using credit cards overseas too. But yeah, everything was protected, so it does make you feel a little bit better when you're in an unfamiliar place.
Absolutely.
Big cities, right?
Anything else we didn't touch on in regards to travel scams that you want to share?
So, but just, the deals, look for dates, are they valid dates? Is there, is it the same year? Is it the right year that we're in? So, look at the small print. A lot of flyers will go out. I think I mentioned it before. There's one flyer that's going out everywhere to all the cities in the United States, even the flyer of the free cruise.
Oh, this is the free cruise flyer. Maybe talk about that a little bit, because I know a lot of people have been receiving these, and probably in this area.
One, yes, okay, we got one at my house, so I it's out there, and it's
okay. What does it look like?
It looks like your typical postcard, and it has like the cruise line. You know what I mean? The typical cruise line, the boat on there, and it says the first 50 to get back with us. So they're trying to entice you.
Okay,
we'll give you dining cards. So they're naming these specific restaurants, they're naming specific hotels, but then they're saying get on a Zoom call. Now they're switching it to Zoom rather than meet us at the Holiday Inn.
Okay.
So
because I know previously they would say meet at this hotel or this venue, but now they're setting up virtual calls.
They're setting up virtual calls, and so they're trying to entice you, and they don't exist. They really don't.
And you can see how people get reeled in by this because there's so
everything
many offerings with it.
So, just be careful. Read everything. And I know it's, you don't have time, and you want to take the time because this is your money. Plus it's a vacation,
right?
You want to enjoy it. You don't want to get burned,
absolutely,
when you're away. So,
well, kind of on the same topic. You and I were chatting this morning, and we were talking about what we see in Scam Tracker. But you had mentioned these bags that are coming up in Scam Tracker, and this bag is one that people take traveling a lot, right? Mm-hmm. Or it's like a beach bag. Okay,
it's the bog.
They're called bog bags. Okay, they've got like holes in them.
It's like a crock.
Yes, it's the bag that looks like a crock.
Yes, and they're cool as ever. I mean, they're the thing this summer. Everyone's at the beach and everyone has them.
They're convenient because they're like that rubbery material. Yeah,
with the sand and everything. What I'm seeing as of lately, because it is now the travel months, they're putting all these ads on social media, and a lot are coming from TikTok, where they're fake companies, but they're selling the bog bags, and people are paying for it. And of course, it's a very reasonable price, and these are expensive bags.
What do they normally go for?
Yeah, I think they're a lot. Okay. And I don't know recently, like over 100, and they're it could be even more now.
Right.
But they're cheap.
So if you see one advertised for $19.99,
right,
probably not the real deal, is what
No.
you're saying. Yes.
And that's what I'm saying. It's on like a TikTok ad and maybe Instagram or Facebook. Just be careful. And, like we've been saying, just go to the original site. You have to compare prices, and you're seeing a huge difference in price. Obviously, that's a red flag to me. Why is it so cheap? And so this is the one that's out there right now that I'm seeing, and people are not receiving the bags. They're not coming.
Right. Yeah, that's something that we hear about pretty frequently.
Yes.
So on these social media sites like TikTok or Instagram, these apps are just a conduit for the business. So it doesn't necessarily mean they've been vetted or that they're legitimate. And I know people who are on TikTok shop constantly, and sometimes you do get good stuff, but you really want to make sure the ad that you're looking at is legitimate. But like we had mentioned, if you see a price that sounds too good to be true for a high-end item or an item that's typically pretty expensive, then don't click.
Right. And I don't want to scare people, but, even, and we're looking at different age groups, and I know a lot of, maybe the older crowd uses Facebook, and they'll see ads on Facebook and they want to buy something through Facebook because it does look good. And so I would say, be careful, please. And then with the younger generation, and I know you and I have talked to many, students at different, middle school and high school level, and they're on TikTok all the time. And we would ask, did you buy anything off of TikTok? Have you ever? And they're like, yeah. And some of them get scammed. And so they know which age group to attack. And so, and I think, there's a direction on TikTok. On TikTok, right? They're zeroing in on young kids.
Yeah, don't call it TikTok when we're at one of our school presentations, because you'll be laughed out of the room.
I'll get laughed out. I'm showing my age here.
It is interesting, though, when we give these school presentations, and I don't want to get too off topic, but I just want to mention this, that when we were talking to these students, so many of them admit that they've been scammed or they have friends who have been scammed, which is great. Not great that they're being scammed, but I appreciate that they're willing to share that with us. Because we have to talk about it in order to help prevent people from being scammed.
And we want to alert, that's what we're here to do. The BBB is there, to help anyone. Give us a call at any time. And we can connect you with, the right business, right? To tell you if, we've seen a lot of these scams, and I'm telling people all the time, I'm emailing back, I'm making phone calls saying this is something very familiar that I've seen. And people feel better, when they hear I'm not the only one that's being scammed. They don't want to be scammed, and I feel bad, but they do want to know that others are like that are, in the same boat that they are, that something happened.
Absolutely.
It's sad.
And just a reminder to everybody, we do have a scam tracker. It's a free resource. You can report and look up scams at bbb.org/scam tracker. But it's such a useful tool. You use it every day. I use it very frequently just to monitor what kind of scams are happening in all across upstate New York.
Right. No, I talked my mother finally into using it.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
She had a problem with the snow plowing, and then, they totaled her grass. And the guy kept saying, I'll be back to fix the grass, and never came back. And she took pictures, and she got on Scam Tracker and filed, she filed a complaint with us. And it wasn't a scam post, but, filed the complaint. And we contacted the business, and he came right back out like it was.
That's what we're here for.
It worked just like that. It did.
That's what we're here for.
And the guy came out and fixed her lawn.
Yeah, absolutely.
That he promised. It took months and months, and he would not respond or ignored her phone calls. And then finally, and I was like, I'm seeing this firsthand, and it was great that.
Well, I'm glad, you got her to do that finally.
Yes,
right.
yes.
But that's what this is all about. Our services are free to the communities we represent. So whether you need to report a scam, file a complaint, or you just want some information on a business, use what we offer.
Yeah. And take pictures, take photos. And that's why I told my mother, take these photos so we can see. We'll put it on file for this business. Yeah. Right? And then others can see things.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we were talking about students a little bit, and that kind of leads into the next topic. As we discuss summer scams, we know the kids are out of school right now. Your daughter included. Just graduated. Congratulations, by the way.
Yes.
But that means that many of them are probably looking for summer jobs.
They certainly are.
And we just so happened to have a scam report in regards to a summer job recently. I mean, I know we hear about these pretty frequently, but I think it's important to talk about right now, especially as, anybody but, young adults in particular are looking for part-time work this summer, seasonal only for a few months before school starts back up again. So can you talk a little bit about employment scams and what we're seeing in Scam Tracker? Right.
It's in a lot of these employments that they're offering, young college students during the summer, it could be internships, right? And they're asking you to provide money. So once you see, well, pay for this, pay for that. No, you shouldn't have to pay for anything, even if it is an internship. Okay, please be careful. In a lot of these companies, what I'm seeing is the remote jobs. Okay, and of course, college kids would love a remote job. Leave my PJs on and work from home, right? And so once it's remote, I can stay home, and it's very enticing to them. They're saying that the amount of money you can make in an hour is unbelievable, and that entices younger folks.
And a lot of these fake ads say, it only requires you to work like 2 hours a day or something very unrealistic like that.
Absolutely. So, you have to be careful. And what is happening is you can they'll have a website. So you go and look at the website, but it'll be overseas. Okay. And yes, and I always say, make sure there's an address, make sure there's, it's giving you a location, but it's overseas. Okay. It's somewhere in Europe or someplace like that. Be careful with that. Okay. Why are they looking for, seasonal jobs, or why are they looking for such a young, group of people? But, it's very hard to decipher, because the websites are really good websites,
right?
But they're overseas, and I just don't like it that they're zeroing in on these young college students who want to make a quick buck,
right?
For the summer.
And how does it typically work? Like, don't they say that they will send you your home office equipment, like a laptop and whatever technology you need to work from home, but they want you to send the deposit first, or they'll send you a fake check and tell you to send the funds elsewhere.
Right. Yeah, and that's what's happening. So, you get the laptop, and then they'll send the check, and then the check, you're going to be putting it into your account, and somehow it's not a valid check. And then they're like, there's a problem with the check, why didn't the check go through? And so they're giving your information out, your banking information, your personal information, which you should never do.
Right.
So you have to be careful.
And one thing I know we tell the students is, if you see a company or a job posting from a company, or you receive an unsolicited text message, first look at the sender. Where's that area code coming from? Mm-hmm. In a lot of cases, it is overseas.
And that's what I see. I see that the scams are from overseas companies.
But don't be afraid to call the actual business that they might be impersonating.
Yes.
To see if they're actually hiring.
Right.
Get on the phone, check on the website, see if these jobs are actually posted.
And one big one, and I keep saying overseas, but there's a fake one from Amazon. It's an imposter. It's, they're recruiting you for Amazon to check out, the websites, and making sure, the reviews are valid and you can work from home. So that is a big one. And I don't know, maybe someone that's listening today have received that. It's a text or an email saying,
yeah, I know.
Amazon recruitment is looking.
I've received text messages from people impersonating Amazon.
Yep.
I received a message from TikTok, and they said they offered a job and said it would only require 1 to 2 hours of work a day, and you could make $5,000 a week. And again, who doesn't that appeal
sign
to?
Me up. Sign me right up.
So that's how they trick people. But you just have to stay on your toes and keep your guard up and make sure you're doing the research, and never transfer money. A legitimate company isn't going to charge you anything to apply for a job.
No, and that's what I'm saying. They're asking for an upfront fee, especially, and a lot of these college kids, they're like, I need to get an internship over the summer. I need to get this on my resume. So they're looking for anything that they can do be careful, okay? Because it sounds too good to be true, but they're asking you to pay for something just so you can, get it on your resume, when you're going to be graduating and it looks good that you have this internship, but be careful.
Right. And obviously none of us are ever want to lose money or in a position to lose money, but especially when you're young and, you're in school and you're trying to save.
Yeah, you're trying to save and there's pressure to get this
to lose any amount of money is awful. So we really want people to be careful. But,
absolutely.
I know we're not quite at the school year yet, but I'm sure it'll be here before we know it. But, I just always like to plug our student scam and fraud prevention program. We're working on adding some new samples to it. We update it pretty frequently, but it really is a great resource if you, know anybody who teaches at a school or know any students at a particular school. We will come to you and give the presentation. So, and employment scams and summer jobs, that's something that we talk about, and we give real examples of these messages that you might get. So, just something to keep in mind. Ask us to come in for a presentation. We'd be happy to do it.
With, kids that are in high school, financial aid forms and, scholarship scams, you shouldn't have to pay to get into put your name in for a scholarship, don't do it. They're promising and they're guaranteeing you a scholarship. So, and you have to put your money up front. So that's another thing to keep an eye out for, be smart. You want to, obviously, the warning signs are the guaranteed scholarship offers, right? And, pay to receive a scholarship or a grant. What? That's warning. Don't do that and request your social security numbers. Don't give any of your personal information out. You want to go to, obviously, the right, the government has, great grants and scholarships, and be careful, go to the college, some of you're interested, your interested schools and look for scholarships that pertain to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and your high school, your guidance department has all that for you too. And those are legitimate places to seek.
So some good advice for students right now who might be enjoying summer break.
That's right.
It always goes too quickly, doesn't it?
It does.
But, staying on the topic of summertime scams, this is event season. We are, in the thick of it. There's so many great events around Buffalo and concerts and
loving it.
Food festivals, all of that. I know we've got the Taste of Buffalo coming up too. Yeah. So we do see, fake ticket sales and scams in regards to certain events. So I think this is a good time just to give everybody a little reminder that make sure that you are buying legitimate tickets, whether it's for a concert or, a festival that you're planning to attend. Unfortunately, ticket scams are out there. People will send you screenshots of actual tickets, but they won't actually work when you get to the venue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's exactly it. This is the time of year, like you said, for that stuff. And it's an opportunity for scammers to create those counterfeit tickets. So you have to be careful, and that peer-to-peer payment, that's another thing. Those are warning signs. What are they asking you to pay with? Okay. Prices seem unusually low for this hot ticket. Right, that comes to town. Is it too low? Check it out. They're refusing to secure transfer. You have to be careful, protect yourself, and go to verified sites. Go to these verified, these markets where you can, get these right tickets, the verified resale marketplaces.
And I actually hear from quite a few people who have encountered concert ticket scams.
Oh, yeah.
Or been scammed on concert tickets. And, that's tough because you pay a lot of money for tickets these days. And, if you didn't pay with a credit card, that purchase is not necessarily protected.
Yes.
That's why, again, we always encourage people to pay by credit card.
Yeah. And one thing, and I know that I was scammed from a concert. The concert tickets are coming out.
If you can get scammed, it can happen to anyone.
It can happen to anyone. But, maybe the tickets aren't going on sale and that it's coming out on Friday. And then there's another site that's saying, well, if you want early tickets.
Early access,
we can get you in, and it's starting tomorrow, which would be a Monday or whatever it may be. Think about that, okay? And what is this site saying? that you can get the tickets before anybody, and so you have to, I wouldn't go for that. And that's what I did. I thought I was getting a ticket before anybody else had the
A
opportunity.
pre-sale.
Yeah,
Right.
a pre-sale ticket. So
Because people are excited. They want to jump on the opportunity, and that's when they might not always be thinking clearly. So, if you are planning on heading to a concert, make sure that you're buying the tickets through legitimate sources, looking for those legitimate websites, and, most importantly, have fun and enjoy all the events
Yes,
you might
you
be
wanna
going to
enjoy
this
it.
summer. So that's it for time on our first podcast.
All right.
We will be back shortly. We'll keep it rolling, talking about some summer scams and then some other stuff. But thank you for tuning in and looking forward to our next episode. Thanks,
That
Lori.
sounds good. Yeah, thanks.